Okay. All right, so now's the time that our 10-minute keynote presenter will be presenting, Jim Ange. And just so that you guys have a little bit of a background on Jim, based on some of his previous presentations to us, he is an avid adventurer. Jim loves to take photos of nature. Jim, remind me you're saying about the last quote that you gave us last week, because it was about and then you dive, right? Life is a, and then you dive.
Life is a beach and then you dive.
Life is, I didn't want to use a foul language here. So life is a beach and then you dive. And I love how that represents Jim so well, because he is a beautiful person to have conversations with about life and about travel and about adventure. And he is so knowledgeable about the internet and the difference between your internet and your Wi-Fi. Don't ever call it the same thing. He will come after you. And with no further ado, because I will continue to mess this up, let's bring to the virtual stage Jim Ange.
Thank you, Samantha. I assume you guys can see my screen here. For those of you that are wondering about how the heck I am doing this, it's actually built into Zoom in the new version, which is why I downloaded it. But as Samantha knows, there's been some other issues with this new version. Anyway, I have a few questions for you folks today. Number one, does your job or lifestyle require you to stay connected to the internet? Most of us being entrepreneurs, the answer is probably yes. Okay. The next question I have for you is, what applications do you use to stay connected? Whether it be for work, education, entertainment, or whatever else. Those are the three main ones I wanted to hit today. Work, typicals, right? Email, Zoom, Office 365, Google Workplace. Notice those are all web-based. You have to have internet to do any of that, okay? Next one, education. Well, welcome to COVID. Distance learning, virtual learning, online learning, whatever you want to call it, or how-to videos on YouTube, which is what YouTube is filled with. They have a lot of that stuff, but again, it's videos. And speaking of videos, entertainment, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, Apple, just go down the list. There's a whole bunch of them there. So how do you connect to the internet? This is something for you to think about. Just pick out your person there. It's Hawaiian Tel, the DSL service. That's a digital subscriber line. It's a phone line service. Spectrum cable, Hawaiian Telecom fiber, fixed wireless. This includes satellite, things like that. And then mobile wireless phones and hotspots. So the most common question asked in the industry to me, besides, is Wi-Fi better than internet? I'll never understand that question. How fast is your internet service? The reality is you really should be asking, is your internet service fast enough for what I want to do? Because everybody's different. Okay, everybody does different things on the internet. If you're just email, you don't need a whole lot of speed. If you're hosting a server, well, you need a lot of speed. Okay, so how much bandwidth do you really need? How do you figure this out? You'll see lists like this all over the internet, and you'll notice that every single type of usage is there. One, well, actually, two of them I want to point out is online gaming. A lot of people who are gamers think they need a whole lot of bandwidth. Actually, they don't. They need really good ping speeds or latency. That time in there when you first run your speed test and it says a ping speed, that has to be the lowest number possible. Ideally, less than 50. For gamers, they rather see it down at about 15. If you have cable, a good connection to cable, you'll get about 15 milliseconds on that. If you have a good connection on fiber, you'll usually see 5 milliseconds. And if you are on our Sky Fiber network over at the Blaisdell, that's 1 millisecond or less. The big users, streaming video, who would have guessed, right? Netflix, Hulu. If you can do Ultra HD or 4K, you're going to need 25 megabits. Most people are doing 1080p or what is called full HD. That's going to be 10 megabits, or 5 megabits for 720p or what is called standard HD, and standard definition is more like about 3 megabits. The other big one is cloud files, Dropbox, Google Drive, things like that. You need a lot of bandwidth, both up and down, to do that. For videos, it's mostly down. For Zoom calls, it's 3 megabits up and down. Okay, so you got to keep in mind, how much bandwidth do you really need? You got to look at that. According to the FCC, the average user in the United States right now is 25 megabits down with 3 megabits up. Welcome to COVID. It's no longer normal. There's no longer an average. Everybody's staying at home. It's now learning from home. Your family may need 50 megabits down, 10 megabits up. Probably a little bit less, but that's what you absolutely need. Most people think they need more. Having more is nice, like having a Ferrari on the H1 at 3:30 in the afternoon, but kind of useless. Okay, you can have all the speed you want, but if you're not using the right type of applications to really make use of it, you don't really need that. So what I want to talk about today also is our hotspot. The hotspot we provide you with in our rental program is a Netgear Nighthawk. It is the highest rated hotspot in the nation. And for most of the world right now, there's international versions of this as well. It retails, suggested retail $349 on Nighthawk, the Netgear website. It's $399 on Amazon, unless you find the refurbished ones and such, and you'll find it for less. Okay. The thing about it is that it can be used for home or on the go. It has an Ethernet port that you can plug in your own home router if you wanted to. It also has dual band Wi-Fi, and the Wi-Fi that's in there is Wi-Fi 5, the latest one before we have now Wi-Fi 6. But Wi-Fi 6, by the way, Wi-Fi 6 is great, provided you have a phone or something that can actually speak Wi-Fi 6 to the router. Other than that, you're just wasting your money. 802.11ac is what the technical name is for Wi-Fi 5, and it's a 4G LTE hotspot. We have unlimited data. We have no data cap, no speed throttle. And let me explain that. Data cap. A data cap was, and I'm saying was because not every carrier is doing this anymore. They gave you a certain amount, you subscribe to a certain amount of bandwidth. Let's say it was 10 gigabytes. And when you got to 10 gigabytes, it stopped dead in its tracks. It just did not do anything from there. You literally ran out of gas. Speed throttling, otherwise known as bandwidth management. That's more common nowadays. You may hear about it, whether you have high-speed internet up to about 22 gigabytes and then it slows down. And in many cases, it slows down to where it is painful. It's like wireless dial-up, okay? We don't do that. Our hotspots also have nationwide coverage, so you can take them on trips. There is no long-term contract. There is no credit check. We have daily, weekly, and monthly rates. Normal rates are daily is $10 a day. Monthly is, weekly is $50 a week. And monthly is normally $189, but we have a special right now at $129.99. And if you're a BNI member, it's even less than that. And another thing about this hotspot is that it can also have an optional external antenna if you really want to boost up the speed and the reception. One thing I hear about all the time is, well, I have an unlimited data phone. Why do I need this? Well, unlimited data in your phone is actually quite different. The unlimited data in your phone is only for use on the phone itself. It is not for the tethering or the mobile hotspot you set up for it. That is all going to be limited. And that usually is, for most carriers, about 5 to 10 gigabytes. And when you go over whatever they limited you to, it's going to be about $5 to $10 per gigabyte. So it can be very expensive if you say you used 100 gigabytes at $5 a gigabyte. Let's see, the first 10 were free. So yeah, about $450 or so. Someone would correct me on the math. So I've had a few people who run into that and they find out and get very surprised real quick. So that's why our hotspots of unlimited data are really good for people who are mobile or need internet in different areas that don't have cable or fiber or anything else available. The biggest carrier in Hawaii is Spectrum. They own 97% of the market statewide. On Oahu, they are up at about 99 or 98.9% what they call market penetration. They have the ability to serve that home. Hawaiian Tel doesn't have that. Hawaiian Tel Fiber definitely doesn't have that. And the pricing, by the way, for Spectrum is $49.99 starting for the 200 megabit speed, but their upload is only 10 megabits. On their 400 megabit plan, their upload is 20 megabits. And under gig plan, which is 940 megabits down, it's only 35 up. So go back to that chart. How many people are online at the same time? How many people are in classes? How many people are in Zoom or using that upload bandwidth? You may not be on the right plan. You may not think you need 940 megabits, but you definitely need the 35 for the up. So something to think about. And I also help people try and figure that out for what they're doing. So recap of all that's available right now, these are the main players and such. Hawaiian Telcom DSL, your download is up to 50 megabits. And that's if you're in a good area. Most of the time it's about 7 to maybe 12, maybe 25. Upload is up to 3, period, maximum. That's it. We do have a few people in BNI that are on DSL, and I can tell when I'm watching what's going on with their screen. Spectrum, those numbers in red, 25 and 3, those are for the special plans that are for the people who are in school or they're on special programs. The US government came up and said, okay, you guys have to come up with these low cost plans. But if you're on those, you're gonna have a hard time doing your Zoom meetings and such. Sky Fiber is a symmetrical system. In other words, we can do uploads and downloads up to 940. That's launching later this year. And the 4G wireless hotspots, typically 12 to 40 megabits, 7 to 30 on the up. Current peak speeds are about 100 to 150. I've seen one go up to about 280, but you have to be standing in the right place to get that. And that is it. My timer's done. Unless somebody has any questions or anything about this, best thing to do is to set up a one-to-one with me because everybody's situation is different. All right, thank you.